as the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
Bruh, she went the rounds with a whole room full of pretty much.
The ADOS niggas, they're gonna have a field day. Tariq Nasheed and them, they're gonna have a field day with that last clip.
I think she brought it back. I think she brought it back because I wasn't cool with where she took it initially, but I was very cool with how she ended.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, let's this
with the whole reparations thing, and because conservatives believe in hard work. We believe in going to work and working for what you got, not asking for handouts from people who never had slaves. And let's talk about the fact there were also Black people that had slaves. So if you want to talk about that, how is that fair? If I'm a white person and my family fall on the side of the Union, why should I have to pay for slaves when this whole country was never all racist? Half of the family, some of the founding fathers were abolitionists. They believed there was people in the North who helped with the Underground Railroad. They fought in the Union.
You are more interested in preserving the fairness of those who didn't have slaves than the fairness of those who are the descendants of slaves. That is priority to you than finding a fair way to accommodate those who have been the descendants of slaves.
Well, our ancestors weren't asking for handouts. They were asking for equal opportunity. And we have equal opportunity in this country. We had a Black president, just in case you didn't know. We had a Black president and we had a Black vice president. I mean, I think she was Black. They said she was Black. So we had I
don't need to say anymore. Like I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah. Crazy work, gentlemen.
Right. So
where are we at?
I do think there's a lot to talk about in terms of the points. I do think there's a lot to talk about in terms of how Amanda handled the situation. I just kind of want to harken back to the conversation we had with Dom a few weeks back.
The marketing team won. We all got debated and reacted to it, and they won. Like I get our knee-jerk reaction to call out fascism inside our country that is becoming more and more fascist every day. Yeah. I get it. But it's also we only feed the beast.
Who is this type of content serving? Right? What positive purpose could this possibly serve other than to outrage, bait, a bunch of people to talking about it from that perspective, right? Because she wasn't going to change anybody's mind because they aren't talking from a factual perspective. You're arguing with the ideologue. I had a professor that says, that said one time, I love the quote, like I have it written down like in places, when I'm dealing with certain situations from a work perspective, even. As soon as somebody reveals themselves to be an ideologue, there's no point in arguing with them because their whole basis is, I believe. And if they have these beliefs based on these deep-rooted things, you're not going to change it in that conversation. Not saying that you can't change the minds of an ideologue, because you definitely can, but you're not going to change it in a rapid-fire 1v20 situation. You're not going to change it, in a 30-minute meeting. You're not going to change it in a podcast conversation. You're not going to change it over the course of an hour podcast. That can sometimes be a lifelong thing. So when people have these conversations, the only thing that you're doing is you're going to affirm the positions, of people that are in agreement with, with Amanda, which, I mean, whoop-de-doo, like they were already going to agree with her anyway. And the people that were already on the side of the 20 people that she's agreeing with are again just going to be reaffirmed in their typical stance. So it's just like, what does this content do for anybody? That's why I don't watch it. Like I intentionally scroll past this shit. And it's not just this one. It's anyone that I see in this realm. Like anyone that I see where it's oh yeah, man, one conservative versus 20 liberals or progressives, one progressive versus 20 neo-libertarians or what the fuck ever. I'm like, none of this matters from that perspective. But now that I've gotten that out the way, I guess now we can talk about some of the bullshit of like their points. But yeah,
my only thing is what is it serving is to show that there are Black people who actually think this way. Because I don't know, well, I might know a couple like in real life that actually do think this way, but we don't have like these sorts of conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like I stick to the cookies around niggas that I have to be around with, that's love or family, blah, blah, blah. But maybe, it's just like it shows you like the ignorance that you're up against, maybe like an example. And then, but I'm with you because like there's really no point of having a debate because they're not arguing or having a debate in good faith. They're not trying to understand the opposition. Like they're just here to ridicule and going in with an agenda. And like at any point, like their overall goal is to spout nonsense and claim as facts based on the examples of one or two things and just paint the entire picture of a group of people based on like these couple of examples. And then just to basically exhaust you, to infuriate you, to enrage you, and just exhaust you out of your position. Like they gaslight the fuck out of you. Like there's literally no point in debating someone like that. They're just there to
straw man argue to death.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's so sad because each and every single one of them. I don't know if we can say that on YouTube, but they are the black friend that racist whites refer to. Like each and every single one of them. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's who they are. I don't know what I'm really
taking it back. Like, whoa.
What modern conservatism is gaslighting. That at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Is I'm just going to tell you nope, and one of two things is going to happen. Is either you're going to be worn down, or you're going to start second guessing what you already know to be true. But that's all modern conservatism is not based on anything factual. It's all based on belief. It's all based on just being the loudest voice in the room. That's all it. Yeah,
look, you arguing with him like you frustrated.
Listen, Harriet should have shot some niggas. That's all I got. Some niggas shouldn't have ever. They should have just.
And so, like as an example of that, right? Like a good example. Just talking about the gentleman from the last clip, right? Where he's talking about some bull and conservatives. We don't believe in handouts. That's factually inaccurate at every level of what it means to be, to have a handout. We just passed a wonderful bill. Which I'm hoping we can repeal before the brunt of it actually goes into effect next year. But trillions of dollars in tax cuts to people who are largely conservative, conservative millionaires plus conservative states, which are by and large high white population states, by the way, are where our welfare dollars tend to flow most heavily. Right. So this whole idea that like conservatives don't want handouts is just stupid. Also, I mean, you could even get more broad with it, right? The fact that in theory, like maintaining like roads and like all that kind of stuff, like there are a lot of things that we take advantage of that are technically handouts that based on the tax structure and how that, is largely progressive, right? You have certain taxes that are regressive, but those typically aren't paying for like a lot of this stuff. It gets complicated. But again, a lot of times, like from a federal perspective, especially, like there's a huge percentage of the American populace that doesn't even pay like federal income taxes. Right. Like based on the way that it's progressive and how you do this kind of stuff. So a lot of the services that people take advantage of are handouts. Like America is a handout state. So this whole idea that conservatives like don't want handouts is just factually inaccurate. And that's just an example of how these conversations tend to go, right? You have people that are literally sitting in front of her and saying things that are factually inaccurate. It's not even because there are certain things when you look at liberal and conservative politics that are subjective, right? So you hear me on this podcast sometimes talk about Keynesian economics, right? Keynesian economics is a theory. And I happen to subscribe to it, and there's some evidence to subscribe to it. But there are things on the other side of that say like, hey, maybe that's not the best economic model. Let's have that conversation. And that typically cuts along liberal conservative lines, or somewhere along that spectrum, for the hard left and the hard right. So there are certain things that are debatable in those spaces, but they come on here and they're literally saying things that are factually not open for debate, wrong, like empirically wrong. And and oftentimes they know that like within themselves. So they're see all of y'all's like points. They're just trying to gaslight her. They're just trying to get her angry, and they want to get her angry. So what they can say is, look at her. She's riled up. I got him. I got him.
The truth.
Yeah, I got them. They can't have a regular conversation. They can't debate with us on a regular stage on the facts. They just get angry because I'm just lying and shit.
That's literally their content models. Is angry liberal gets destroyed, gets owned. That's literally the whole content model of just getting you so worked up. That's why it's just like you're better off not engaging, because if stupidity pisses you off that much, you're better off just not engaging at all.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because basically you're just better off not engaging with somebody like that. But if they are trying to have a conversation in good faith and actually try to understand, then absolutely, that is a worthwhile endeavor and effort. But they literally did that shit in the clip. I forgot what word Amanda Seals said, but he was like, oh, now your name calling, but this motherfucker called her all sorts of shit 20 times before she even got to that point. It's like, oh, now your name calling me. Oh, now you're doing like, it's like, that's just the whole tactic of that conversation. Again, there's no fruit. It's not fruitful at all. But the thing is, like, what do we do when we have to live and coexist with these people who are anti-progression of the things that would actually directly benefit them, but they are so brainwashed by white supremacy and being fucking uncle ass bitch ass niggas and niggas. What do we do about that? Is there anything that should we even concern ourselves with these niggas? I don't know.
There's evidence that says when you present an ideologue with evidence that directly refutes what they believe, they're more likely to dig their heels in than to change their minds. So at that point, there's really not much left for you to do but to let them suffer from their own, you made your bed, now sleep in it. But even then, even that is not foolproof. Because what a lot of are, and yeah, we're gonna have to wind up bleeping that out. What a lot of those folk are in their heart of hearts is a model minority. You know what I mean? And the problem with being a model minority is that, again, a lot, they understand that even if they don't have the evidence because they've never gone out of their way to seek out the evidence, there's a part of them somewhere in the back of their mind that understands that a lot of what they're saying is just regurgitated BS. You understand what I'm saying? But if I repeat it enough times, then the powers that be, they're going to say, oh yeah, Jethro, he's one of the good ones. How about we give him, just a couple of crumbs from off of the table? You know what I mean? That's the motivation. And it's not just black folks. It's just, and this is why, and I try to empathize as much as I can. And just for the record, ADOS is BS, FBA is BS, at least as it exists. But I try to empathize because I understand why you have a lot of American-born black people who have a certain attitude toward foreign-born black people, especially if they're like boomer age, because a lot of them do have, not nowhere near all, but a lot do have this model minority because they come to America and they're indoctrinated with this idea of, the American dream, how much more accessible it is over here than it is where you come from. So then they look at these niggas in the projects, they look at these niggas in the trap or whatever, and say, well, why haven't you succeeded? It's because, nigga, they robbed us of $27 trillion worth of labor that they never gave back to us. And then when there was an effort to make that happen, then they took that money from us and gave it to the plant. So we've been playing with but they don't know that because they don't get taught that history. You know what I mean?
And even with just brief interjection for the audience, even with model minority theory, the interesting thing about model minority theory, even in 2025, is that the reason why a lot of these groups are model minorities is because we're getting the wealthiest of those groups coming here, right? Yes. And that's factual, right? So like when you look at the quote unquote model minority groups, a lot of times you see Nigerian Americans and you see Cuban Americans. Typically the Cuban Americans and the Nigerian Americans that come over here are the wealthiest and most educated like representatives of those countries. So they come over here and of course they're doing really well. Like their lineage is fucking doctors, in their home countries.
Literally.
like what are we talking about? Yeah, you go come over here and like do super well. Like I can only imagine what the fuck I would be doing if my mom and dad were fucking doctors. Like shit, I could be awesome and bootstrappy too.
Right. But that's real. And again, they don't get taught that context. All they see is that is a bunch of poor black people that's not doing as well as they should be doing, not doing as well as, us over here. I mean, we want to talk about handouts. We can talk about all of the Cubans that fled from Castro, and Social Security Administration gave them a bunch of money to buy land and to build businesses in South Florida somewhere. But we don't talk about that. You know what I mean? All we talk about, is these poor black folks over here that can't seem to get their stuff together, you know. But I guess in addressing the way that Amanda handled it, I understand her frustration. I get it, because I can imagine her having this conversation umpteen thousand times and it always coming to the same conclusion, to the point that you eventually you just break and you just like, all right, nigga, I'm gonna just let you have it at this point. I ain't even going to try to have an intelligent conversation with you. I'm just going to call you an idiot to your face and then explain to you why you're an idiot. You know what I mean? So I understand her frustration, because I have secondhand frustration hearing these points. I'm not even engaging with it, but I've heard it so many times, and it's just like the information right there is readily accessible for anybody who really wants to know. But a lot of times it comes down to folk don't want to know. It's just the nature of discourse as it is today, is that a lot of times folk don't want to know. They just want, folk will literally seek out that one bit of information to reinforce what they already believe and disregard all of this over here that says, no, that's not what it is. So I get it.
It don't speak to their validations. Like, it doesn't speak to their agenda. It's like, how do you attack the root cause of it? Like, they want to believe this bullshit. Like, they are so heavily indoctrinated. Like you said, like, it's like, I believe this, fuck everything else. And then they don't even allow you to finish a damn sentence. And then they will like gaslight you into saying that you are the person, you're dumb, you can't debate, you're sensitive. When they get loud, won't allow you to complete a sentence and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm actually pretty exhausted myself.
Let me get one more and then we can close up. Let me get one more and then we close out, because I did want to talk about like the aspect of like, well, what do you do? Because again, in that conversation with Dom, we talked about the fact that these conversations need to happen, and you alluded to it. These conversations need to happen on some platform in some form or fashion to kind of move the culture forward in some way. And I think that you really need to engage stuff from a structural perspective. And I would challenge the Democratic leadership, like if they're really about that life, to engage some of the powers that be from that perspective. And an example of what I mean is, one of the things that is really actually stuck on Trump in terms of polling numbers, the tariffs are very unpopular, but the Epstein situation like really hit his polling numbers, and it's really stuck around and had legs from that perspective. And I noticed the way the reporting on that was different than any of the other stuff that he's done. And when I pulled back the thread, I'm getting slightly conspiratorial here. He went at Rupert Murdoch right around the time that happened. And then that was when you saw the Wall Street Journal like stories coming out in mass with very like good sources and very good reporting and all that kind of stuff. Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal. So the comment that I made in regards to this is like, what happens when a would-be king goes up against a literal kingmaker, right? So when you own the news and you can push agendas through Fox and through the Wall Street Journal and all this kind of stuff, you start changing people in a way that you want it. So I would say, if I'm the Democratic leadership, how do I make Rupert Murdoch want to move things in the way that I want them to do? How do I make Google move it in the way that I want them to move it? How do I make Microsoft move it in the way that I want to move it? How do I make the Gates Millennium Foundation, the private organization with the largest war chest in the history of any NGO, like move stuff in the way that I want them to move it? How do I make that advantageous for them? Because I think it has to happen at a structural level. But that's my last point. If anybody has any closers,
I think that's me personally. I'm right on, my brother. I fuck with it.
I don't know why we stopped talking about Medicaid. All of the poor white folks that got their Medicaid, got their government benefits. I don't know why we ever stopped talking about that.
Yeah, we'll have you back, and we're gonna dig deep into these, especially with your journalism background. We'll dig deep into these media messages and trends. But Josh, you know what I want to do sometimes?
What's that, my boy?
Sometimes I'm having such a good conversation at the barbershop that I just want to continue that shit, man. I just want to take that feel home with me. And now I can.
Tell me how.
With a membership with waving the red flag. Right?
Tell me the benefits.
It's got it all, man. It's got it all. Get access to full episodes for those people who don't prefer the Clips or Discord server, engage with like-minded individuals. Also, annual memberships do come with a discount, 50% off, $42 a year. For all of those benefits, come be a part of the community. Come take the barbershop home with you. Get access to those full clips and that community support, and support the people that support you with this content that we bring to you week in and week out. Thank you all.
It's a red flag.